I have a new stand for my recording device, and the way I record sometimes ends up with quiet sound because I'm in front of a little heater down here. It makes me feel safe. It gives me white noise. The white noise helps me stay on focus. It's kind of a strange sensation, but if you think about how when you step into the shower and you let the water come down over your head, and the white noise of the shower kind of blocks out all the other things and kind of centers you in yourself, or how you might get that sensation from a silent, like a water tank. There's a meditation technique where you put yourself in a tank of water. I was chased out of the shower when I was a child for, my mother said, economic reasons. You're gonna run up the shower bill, you're gonna run up the heat bill. And I mean, she would literally chase me out of the shower if I took too long of a hot shower while she was home, when she could notice. I would start showering when she wasn't home to avoid that issue. But in any case, it prevented me from spending time in that really pleasant, warm water space. So, and then I would also, when she was not home, crank the heat up to 72. That was the heat cranked up. My mom would keep it at a steady 56. I'd crank the heat up to 72, get myself in the tiniest bathroom, and tent a blanket over my head, over the heat register, and that was my safe, warm space. And so now, as an adult, to feel safe and warm, I cluster, huddle in front of space heaters. And this space heater I'm sitting right in front of gives me a nice sound that blocks out a lot of the empty, quiet noise. Again, child is safely restrained. Don't mind the noise there. And it gives... I will have to attend to her in a minute, and I'll edit that appropriately. And it gives me a nice heat feeling of safety and whatnot. And so I huddle, and that makes me feel safe because I can't really leave myself in the shower for long periods of time. It makes me feel too anxious that someone might come and kick me out of my safe space. Just to clarify, 1 or 2 times I left the house heat on at that, cranked 72 temperature, and when my mom came home and found it, she would rage and scream. So a lot of my friends joke about me liking to live in the garage. Just to give you all a nice idea, this is where I am. You can see the vehicle out there and the blankets and so on, and that's why I smoke when I'm here. I do not smoke inside. I do have a baby monitor just over there that I pay attention to my child. Again, she is safe. I'm explaining this because now I'm feeling anxious, like I need to defend to the public that I am in the garage, my baby is not. I have her safely restrained at the moment and monitored at most other moments when my partner is not here. I'm not a bad mother. I am telling this to myself, less to you guys, more to myself, making myself feel better. Okay, so on to the next stage of things. Again, the shaking is from this new stand that I'm learning to use. Talking about why you guys might sometimes have trouble hearing me. Again, it's because of where I am choosing to record this on a more frequent basis in a really cold garage, because it's hard for me to stay inside a warm house. I do keep my house warm for my child. I spend a lot of time in a cold garage, sitting right in front of a space heater. I've explained why that is the place I feel the most personally safe I put myself here in this safe space so that I can talk about these issues in a really comfortable manner in hopes of telling you the most honest story. Not that I lie when I tell these stories, but sometimes I do miss parts of the story. When I rewatch these stories, I think, oh shit, I missed that. Oh crap, I missed that. Oh, they won't know the whole story if I don't tell this. You'll know the whole story if I don't tell this. I find reasons why maybe I shouldn't put this up. Or I start to think, oh man, I've released I've released 2 videos and they've come out within almost 30 hours of each other. Everyone is going to think I am obsessed with myself because I am now releasing too many videos. Dear God, these people are going to hate me. Pretty sure y'all don't hate me. And I'm pretty sure you won't be watching these if you're tired of hearing my voice. So I'm going to persevere through that feeling of contempt for myself. I'm going to look myself right in the eye in this video and say, these people don't hate you. And if they're tired of listening to you, they're going to hit the pause button. And if they want to come back, they will. I am doing this for me because I need to get through my issues. I don't need to be validated by anyone. I am making these videos to get through my issues. And I hope that if you are seeing this and you need to get through your issues, that will inspire you to do this, if this is what you need to do. I tried writing a journal. I can't do that. It's almost too offensive to me. Somehow this is less offensive. I don't know how, but I'm gonna go with it. Okay. Part number 2 about why this video is a little weird. This video is a part number 2. I just released a video about the story of my assault. That's a hard story to tell. The second part of my assault is the reactions of the various people in my life to me being assaulted. So I'm going to go on to tell the story of how people reacted to my assault 5 years ago. And some of that is also disturbing because my family reacted poorly. And a lot of it hurts me. And so I have my art that I might need to turn to. And that's why this is kind of projected in a strange direction. You see, that's what's in my other hands. Because often this is a really good way for me to kind of meditate back into focus. When I get afraid of emotions that I don't want to deal with, my mind will kind of tell me that I have other things to do rather than focus inward and dig in and mine out memories and emotions and things I don't want to deal with or filter or polish, I guess would be a better word than filter, because I don't want to get rid of them necessarily so much as clean out the bullshit and try and find the truth. There's more reason for that analogy, but I think I've fallen down a few rabbit holes here. So the art can kind of keep me and my brain from latching on to any one solid point and going towards those rabbit holes, and staying a little bit more on topic, staying a little bit closer to the bone of we're gonna stay and deal with this thing that you would rather not. Because we have a pleasant thing right here that we like doing. And if we look at this pretty thing, then we can deal with the painful thing that is also on our back. Yeah. So that's how I'm gonna try and get through this part of this story. So bear with me, because here we go. So like I was saying, the art that I have here, you might see me look away, and that's why this one is particularly different. Talking about how people have reacted to this specific story. Telling the story of how people have reacted to me being assaulted is really, it had a particularly strong impact on me. And because I was left particularly alone after the assault, it had a really strong, lasting effect within my PTSD that triggers. So basically, trauma does not affect you based on like post-traumatic stress. That disorder does not form itself in one day. The lasting impacts don't happen like I got assaulted, I got beaten, and then the effects that are the disorder, so what might all be lumped in, the flashbacks, the nightmares, the situations that then trigger the flashbacks, all of that formed as my brain reestablished each and every connection. So that whole process took up to a year. I mean, the official time I took off of work was 3 months. So if you want to look at that from a medical perspective, sure, let's hit 3 months. But that process does not take a day. So if you imagine that process taking 3 months, I had to explain this story umpteen times to however many doctors. And I had people go with me to these appointments or be at my side as I was explaining over the phone, but never explain for me. Maybe a handful of times out of an innumerable amount of times. So the sheer number of times this had to impact me in those 3 months was substantial. And so telling this story is a trigger in and of itself. So I have my art. I have this entire situation set up so that I am able to tell you with the most freedom of the soul. I have set up this space so that I have, with the most freedom of the soul, to tell you my most honest truth. I have my art, I have this particular situation set up for this particular explanation so that I can keep myself as on track as possible and hopefully remember the most details and really just set us all up for the easiest conversation possible. So, the night of the assault, the hospital released me, which was probably ill-advised. They did not really, I think they just assumed they were dealing with a bunch of drunks that got into a bar fight and just let us all go home. They didn't take a really good inventory of what kind of situation they were letting me go into. At that point, I'm pretty sure it was the 7th head injury I had had. They diagnosed it as multiple concussions. When I ended up going to the doctor on Monday to check in with my primary care, she diagnosed it as multiple serious concussions, and by the end of the following week, it had been diagnosed as multiple traumatic brain injury, like serious traumatic brain injury. So it had been upgraded several times until my doctor explained to me that I needed to take a full 3 months off work and exercise my need for the maximum time allotted for the Family Medical Leave Act or something like that. Basically, I needed as much time as I could to heal because my brain had been exceptionally damaged, and I was looking at brain injury, like brain damage, not just a bump on the noggin. I should not have. She told me I should not have been released from the hospital, and that she was really quite worried about me and the situation I had at home, because what had happened the night of is my friends took me home. They put me in the bed with Cox. He did wake me up every 2 hours. By the time I woke up and had a splitting headache at about dawn, which I think at that point it was the middle of winter, so it's probably 7 a.m. I got out of bed. My head felt like a overripe melon. I walked myself across the street to the coffee shop. I don't know how the hell I got through that coffee line, but I got my coffee. I sat myself in my car, and I managed to drive myself to my friend Stephanie's. Stephanie was in Seattle, so her family was living there. Her sister and brother-in-law and their 2 kids, and her longtime boyfriend lived there, but he was in Seattle visiting her. So that was really a bad decision of mine. I should not. Well, I didn't necessarily know a lot about head injuries at that point. I had only been taken into the hospital for 2 of my 7 head injuries. No one had really educated me about them. I had not had great coaches, but that is a conversation for another time. I should not have been allowed to drive myself anywhere. But I made it to what we at that point called the Palomino house, because like I said, Stephanie was not living there. But I was very good friends with that entire family. I got there. I looked like hell. I explained to them what happened, and everybody was just dumbfounded. And so then I remember taking myself out to the porch to smoke a cigarette. I just set my palm and got paint on it and splotched around my paint, but that's okay. I took myself out to the back porch to have a cigarette. I remember feeling like a robot. I felt alien in my own body. I didn't really know where I was. I was really, really disoriented. I felt like a banana in a bruised skin. It was just so, even now, seeking to remember the feeling is, my brain doesn't want to do it. My brain really, really wants to hide from that. it says no effing way. You get the heck away from that. My eyes want to dart away from something I'm not even looking at. It's a really weird sensation that, you know, I can't even describe as akin to anything. But in any case, I was on that porch, and the first person I called was Stephanie. She didn't answer. So the second person I called was Brian, her boyfriend. It just so happened that Brian did answer the phone. He usually does. That's why I called him. And I remember saying, "Hey, are you with Steph?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay, well, you're going to have to relay this to her because it's really important." And he said, "All right, well, I'll put you on speakerphone." So I relayed the story to the best of my ability, and I just remember Stephanie was silent for a second or two, and she just said, "Holy fuck, how are you alive? Like, how did this happen?" And from there she said, you're gonna stay where you are, right? And I said, yeah, I don't think I can even make it home. And she said, "You're staying with your mom right now, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Are you gonna go back there?" I said, "I don't know where else I can go. I don't know how she's gonna deal with it. I don't know what's gonna happen." And I remember just continuing to be really confused and not knowing how I was gonna deal with standing up to her, and just knowing how hopeless I felt at facing that fight. And then, of course, the few people that were able to give me that compassion that Stephanie was giving me, I had already talked to, which were Stephanie and Sarah, whose house I was at. And then it made no sense to call my stepmother before I called my dad. So, which would be the third person that might give me some compassion. So I proceeded to call my father and my mother. And I'm not going to recount both conversations because they both went about the same. I called them. I said, "Hey, I gotta let you know, I was in the hospital last night." "Well, what the hell? Why were you in the hospital?" "Well, I was out with my friend Alyssa." "You know Alyssa?" "Yeah." "Well, where were you at?" I said, "I was at the Bossa Nova Ballroom." "Well, why the hell were you out?" "We were just at a club, going to a dance." "All right, what day?" The rest of that conversation. My parents, I told them where I had been, the Bossa Nova Ballroom. They were not very happy to hear that I had been out downtown. "Why were you there?" "Alyssa had invited me out last minute to this event, a dance, at that place." "Well, you shouldn't have been out, Jenny. You shouldn't be out down there." "Come on, I barely ever go out downtown. Besides, do you want to know, what happened?" "What happened?" "Well, I got beat up." "Well, what the hell, Jenny? What happened?" "Well, I got punched in the head a few times. I ended up with a couple concussions." "Well, how did that happen? Did you get in a fight?" I said, "No, I was trying to break up a fight, and I got punched." "Well, when are you going to be back to work? Did you have to take today off?" I said, "Yeah, I did. I don't know how much time I'll have to take off. I've got a note from the ER that says I've got to go to the doctor on Monday, so I'm not going back to work before Monday." "Well, you've got to get back to work." That's what they said over and over again. You've got to get back to work. If I don't press on, I'm just gonna focus too much on what happened that day. I think I called one or two more people to tell them what happened because it was pertinent information. Maybe I just needed support. I'm trying. I don't have a lot of really solid memories of the next few days. I do remember talking to my doctors. They very quickly, like I said, told me I needed to take that full 3 months off work. When I explained that to my mother and my father individually, they both made it quite clear that they were not going to financially support me in any way, shape, or form over that 3 month period. I didn't have anything like Aflac, the duck, the temporary disability insurance. Didn't have anything like that. I mean, I was protected from being fired, so there was that. I didn't work for the greatest company. There are more stories there. I quit / got fired shortly after coming back, about 3 months after coming back from that leave taking. I found out partway through that leave taking that the company was advertising my job. But whatever. I did get my job back when I came back. Like I said, my parents made it explicitly clear that they were not going to financially support me. They made it explicitly clear when I told them I was taking 3 months off of work that they felt I needed to get back to work immediately. They made it clear that they did not believe the doctor, that I was not as injured as the doctor said I was. They made it quite clear that they believed their own selves and their own prognosis more than they believed the doctor's prognosis. And that they believed their own bias more than they believed the way that I felt. They can claim otherwise, but that is the way I felt, and they were not willing to talk about it, and they were not willing to have a conversation about it, and they have not been willing to have a conversation about it since then. My next really solid memories moving forward into the aftermath / development of the PTSD disorder, the conglomeration of the aftermath of the assault. The next memory in that process for me is probably 2 weeks after the assault. And I was sitting in my bedroom, which had I would assume is like meant for the twin bed, full bed that a child might have to be recessed in a little bit. So that the window is right over the bed, no need for a headboard kind of thing. But instead I chose to line my bed next to it and put a chair there, especially after the assault, so I could sit and enjoy the sun and smoke out the window. I didn't have a child then. But that was a lot easier than climbing a whole bunch of stairs up and down to go outside to smoke, especially with a head injury when I wasn't supposed to be doing anything but lying on my back or sitting in a chair. So I had a chair next to this window, and that's really the next memory I have, is sitting in that damn chair, thinking about all the ways my mother had told me the night before I was not pulling my weight around the house, because all I was doing was sitting in a fucking chair all day, not mopping the floor, not vacuuming the house, not cleaning while she was at work. She never cleaned. I had been doing all of that while I was working. For her, I know I said I was in control, but I was in control by, I guess, avoiding her getting pissed off and making my plans to get the fuck out. And I had been that close to getting out. Take that for what you will. I was that close. And here I was, damaged, running at like 20% capacity. And she was asking me why I wasn't doing everything I had been doing before, because now I wasn't working. I was being lazy. She's yelling at the cats she can't get, my daughter. They're on the other side of a fence. Yeah. So that's the next memory I have. I was able to move into my stepmom's house about a month into my recovery from that. But like I said, my assault set me back just so far. And it set in a lot of permanent emotional scars that just compounded damage that didn't need any help being enforced. It gave my mother a whole new adventure in the process of codependency and just reestablishing her hold on me. It's not that it gave her a blank slate, but it gave her like a brand new page of my adulthood to write her signature on. You know, she had been given a baby with a blank slate, and she got to write her pages all over it. But as an adult, I kind of slammed the book shut on her. I had said, no, woman, I am stronger than you. I have grown stronger, and you can't do this near as easily, and you are not as strong as me. But someone gave her that blank page, and she was gonna use it, and I didn't get out of there in time. At least not quite quick enough for her to... But it's not all her fault either, because that assault took a lot of my tools away that I had become stronger with. That assault started me down a road towards not being able to do some things that I loved to do. And though choices later on in life in these 5 years have caused me to not be able to play sports, it wasn't that assault. And though it wasn't that assault that caused me to not be able to play sports later on down the line, if it hadn't been for that assault, maybe I wouldn't have had to try so hard to rebuild a lot of the coping mechanisms. I mean, it was just 10 steps backward before I got to take another step forward. So it did have a very large impact on me. And then after having that good versus evil fight and having evil win, then seeing all the evil come at me, having my parents not love me, not save me, you know, that unconditional safety net when you stub your toe as a kid and you run to your mom and dad and you're like, oh, I hurt myself, and they're like, I love you, it's okay, I'll help you. That instills this trust so that when you're 27 and you said, oh, mom, dad, I just got my head beat in, will you please save me and help me through this really hard time? You expect them to say, oh, I love you, I'll help you. But I said, mom, dad, I just got my head beaten in, will you help me? Will you save me? And they said, nope. Save yourself. Put yourself in my shoes. ask how hard that would make your recovery from getting beaten on the street for no damn good reason. Then ask yourself how hard that would make your recovery from being abused and abandoned as a child, when you had already made it so far. Then your world came tumbling down again. You managed to not give up. You're trying to come back. And here I am. So, there's part 2. Again, this is a safe space. Before you criticize, ask questions. It's easier to sink a ship than save it when it's got holes. I've said this a lot. I'm a victim, and I know this, and I'm not here for your damn tears. I'm not here for your sympathy. I want you to listen. I want you to respect my story. I'm here to open some conversations. Again, before you criticize, please ask questions. Ask yourself why you want to criticize. Know that I have tried to sink my own ship 1,000,000 times. I live at the bottom of the sea on a daily basis. It is harder to keep a ship afloat on the water than it is to poke holes and sink it. Thank you for listening.